Okay, so today we're going to be doing lesson 5.8, which is a problem-solving lesson, and we're going to be using a problem-solving strategy called a flowchart to help us solve some complicated problems. What a flowchart is really just a series of boxes that help us to understand a more complicated problem. So we might put boxes together like this, where the first box, this box here, is one thing we add to the second box, and then we subtract from the next box, and then when we do that, we get a total. And it helps us to organize a more complicated problem. And a better way to explain this would be to do a problem and use these flowchart boxes to help us solve it. So here's a problem, and you can see from this problem, it's a very complicated problem, lots of steps. We're going to use our problem reading strategies like reading slowly, stopping, and visioning. We're going to use all of those strategies now. So Mary went to the store and spent $71.23 on clothes at the mall. So I picture Mary in my head, and I see her going to the mall. And when she's all done shopping, she has spent $71.23. That's what she has to give someone at the register. And it's important that we visualize the problem. She bought a jacket which cost $35.15. So that's part of her purchase. But she also bought 2 t-shirts, and they don't tell me what those t-shirts cost. So immediately I'm wondering, well, how much do the t-shirts cost? So I'm going to read on, right? So $35.15 for the jacket and then some t-shirts. There was sales tax, which is $162. And I think we know from our shopping experience that sales tax is something we would add to our total. And now here it says, if each t-shirt costs the same amount, how much did each t-shirt cost? So now I know why they didn't tell us the cost of the t-shirts. They want us to find the cost of the t-shirts. So I want you to think about the problem. I want you to put yourself in the mall with Mary. And I know you know this. When you go to the store, what they do is they take each of the items that you've purchased and they add them together. Then they add the sales tax. And when they're done with that, they tell you how much you owe. They give you a total. So we're going to use some boxes to help represent this problem. And that should help us simplify things and find out the cost of the 2 t-shirts, which is what we need to find out. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the price of the jacket, right? And then we're going to add that to the cost of the 2 t-shirts. All right, so I don't know the cost of the 2 t-shirts, but I'm just really developing a plan right now. So plus 2 t-shirts, right? Then I'm going to add the cost of the sales tax, because again, sales tax increases my purchasing total. And altogether, those things are going to equal my total. So now I have these 4 boxes, right? And these 4 boxes tell the story of Mary's trip to the mall. Right? And they're going to help us organize the information from the story. Right, now that I have the story organized in a flowchart, it's time for me to go back to the story and get the numbers that were given to me and plug them into my flowchart. For example, the first thing I want to know is how much this jacket costs. Well, right back in the problem, it tells me that jacket cost $35.15. So I'm going to replace that box with $35.15. All right. Then I need to find the cost of the 2 t-shirts. Well, if you remember, I was confused why they didn't give us that number. Well, guess what? They did not give us that number. So that's the unknown thing we have to find out. So I'm going to keep that 2t there because I still don't know how much t-shirts cost. All right. Then the next thing we want to get in is the problem is the cost for tax. Tax in this case costs $1.62. So we're going to add that here. And then finally, did they give us a total? Yes, they did. At the end, when Mary went to the register, they said, Mary, you owe us $71.23. Okay. And now we have a problem that has represented, a way to represent the problem in a way that now we can solve and find out how much 2 t-shirts cost. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to simplify this problem. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, what would they do at the register? Well, at the register, they would add up first the jeans to the t-shirts, and then they would add the tax and come up with the total. I cannot add the jeans to the t-shirts because I don't know how much the t-shirts cost. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to add up the cost of the jeans to the tax, and then we'll see what we have left over that would give us our total. So I'm going to go off to the side, and I'm going to add $35.15 to our 162 of tax, and that equals $36.77. So these two things combined equal $36.77. I still have to add the cost of the two t-shirts, and that will give me my total of $71.23, right? So now I have a dilemma. How do I figure out how much the cost of those two t-shirts were? Well, I know that this plus this equals this. Something plus 36.77 gives me 71.23. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the inverse operation to addition. I'm going to actually subtract this 36.77 from this 71.23, and that should give me the cost of these two t-shirts, right? Because these two parts right here make up this bigger part. I need to find out what the missing part was, and I'm going to use subtraction to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off again, and I'm going to go off on get some scrap paper, and I'm going to take this 71.23, and I'm going to subtract from that $36.77. Because this 71.23 is my total. This is the part that is made up of the jacket and the tax. I need to find out the part that's missing. So let me just make some room here. I've got to do some regrouping. That becomes a 6. Regrouping. That becomes a 4. Regrouping. That becomes a 6. 4. And it turns out that our two t-shirts cost $34.46. Okay, so now I actually could, if I wanted to, I could go back up to this part of the problem and replace that with the $34.46, right? But the problem didn't ask me how much two t-shirts cost. It asked me how much one t-shirt cost. So in order to figure out how much one t-shirt costs, I'm going to have to take this total right here, this $34.46, and I'm going to have to divide that total by 2. So again, going off to the side, if I want to find out what the cost of one t-shirt is, I'm going to have to take this $34.46, and I'm going to have to divide it by 2. Okay, we know how to do this. I've got no decimals in my divisor. That's good. So I can just plop my decimal up on top of the house there. How many 2s are in this? 1, 2, 1, 4, 7. Let me extend my page. Sometimes 14, subtract 0, bring down the 4, 2, oops, sorry, 2 times 2 is 4, subtract 0, bring down the 6, 3, and that's my total, $17.23 for a t-shirt. So you can see we used a flow chart, and what that flow chart did was it allowed me to organize information, and it allowed me to write an expression, and this is an expression right here, hold on. This is an expression right here that then allowed me to find out my answer. So again, the answer to the problem is $17.23. That's how much one t-shirt cost. All right, what I want you to do now is that I want you to, you're going to pause the video and you're going to try this problem. So have some scrap paper ready. I want you to draw some boxes in a flow chart to represent the problem. And then I want you to plug in the information that's important. So for example, I'm going to read this one through with you quickly. John, Joey, and Dylan spend $60.75 in all to go to a football game this weekend. That sounds like they spent a total of $60.75. They purchased 3 tickets. They spent $7.50 on a large popcorn. And then they shared 2 pretzels. So 2 pretzels. I guess I should put popcorn in there, and I'll put 3 tickets in there. So what you're going to do is you're going to use a flow chart like this to plug in the information from the problem, and then you're going to solve it. All right, so give it your best shot, and when you come back, I will solve this problem with you. Pause the video now and work on this problem, then come back and unpause the video. Okay, so I set this problem up with our flow chart, and the first thing I notice is that we have 3 tickets. right? That's going to be part of the cost. They purchased a popcorn, which they shared, and then they purchased 2 pretzels. And the total of that we saw from the beginning is $60.75. So what it is, it's time for me now to go back into the problem, and it's time for me to plug in some information in these boxes into my flowchart. So they want to know the cost of each ticket. So I don't have anything to replace this 3T with. So that's really what we're solving for. That's what we're going to try to find is the price of 3 tickets. But I do know how much the popcorn costs. That's right from the problem, $7.50 on large popcorn. I do know that each pretzel was $3.75. So it's really going to be 2 times $3.75 is what they spent on the pretzels. I'm going to put that in parentheses. And then that equals our total, which I found in the beginning, which is $60.75. That was right off the bat they gave us to that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify this expression, and I'm going to do that one operation at a time. And we're going to eventually come down to just these 3 tickets that we need to find the cost of. So I'm going to keep the 3 tickets. And the first thing I'm going to do are parentheses right here because that's what PEMDAS tells me to do. So everything else is going to stay on that line. Now, 2 times 375, I'm going to go off to the side, and I'm going to do that. And that happens to be $7.50. And that's equal to $60.75. Okay, so now what I have is I have the cost of the 2 pretzels. I have the cost of the popcorn. I don't have the cost of the tickets, but all of that added up together equals my total. I'm going to simplify by adding these 2 things together so that now I know that the cost of my 3 tickets plus all of that food that I bought, that would be $15 worth of food, is equal to $60.75. Right now, as you can see, it's getting simpler and simpler, and I'm able to more easily find out what I need to find out, which again is the cost of those tickets. So you might ask yourself, well, how am I going to figure out what the cost of the 3 tickets is? Well, first thing I'm going to notice is that the cost of the 3 tickets plus this amount together, those 2 things together equal this. What I can do at this point, I know that when 2 things added together equal this, I can use inverse operations, and I can take this $60.75 and I can subtract from it $15 to figure out the cost of my 3 tickets, right? Because the tickets plus the food together equal the total. Therefore, the total minus the food should give me the cost of the 3 tickets. I hope you followed that. All right, so this is going to be $45.75, and that's simply subtraction, is equal to the cost of 3 tickets. Now, if I want to find out the cost of 1 ticket, which is what I want to find out, the cost of 1 ticket would be $45.75 divided by 3, right? If the total cost is $45.75 for 3 tickets, I want to find out the cost of 1 ticket, I would just divide that by 3. And when I go off and do my division work, I'm going to find that my answer is $15.25 per ticket. All right. So what you're going to do right now is you are going to go to into your back into Google Classroom, and in Google Classroom is going to direct you to some problems in the math textbook workbook that you can work on. Work on those problems to the best of your ability. When I meet with you this afternoon, we will go over them. Have your work handy. Work neatly. I should see the question number. I should see all the work. I should see your flow chart. I should see how you simplified it line by line, and I should see your answer. This way, when we work on it together in groups this afternoon, we'll be able to easily find out what you did well and where you needed, maybe where you went wrong, and where we can find out where your problems are. So go ahead and do that now, and I'll see you this afternoon.